Hey guys, welcome to this lesson. This is part 4 on the song How Insensitive. And in this lesson we're going to be taking a look at Jobim's version in B minor, which was released in the album of 1963 entitled The Composer of Desafinado Plays. And there's a few reasons why it's interesting to look at that version, but one of them is because it's a fully instrumental album, and you can really hear his lyrical piano style, his beautiful melodic piano playing the melody, and also his guitar playing, his comping, the Bossa, his style of comping, his style of playing the rhythms, the Bossa rhythms is really interesting because he's got a very unique way of playing. And so we're going to be taking a look at that. So first we'll look at the chords in the key of B minor, and then we're going to be looking at some of the most common ways of playing the Bossa rhythms, as well as his unique ways, his unique way of playing in that piece. If you haven't watched the other videos in this series, you can check on the description below. There will be links to parts 1 to 3. Before we get started though, if this is your first time here, please consider subscribing to our channel and leaving us a like and maybe a comment. That really helps us a lot. And for our tabs, backing tracks, and exclusive lessons, please head over to our Patreon page. So let's get started. So for those of you following the previous lessons up to now, it'll be fairly easy for you to migrate from D minor into B minor, because the chords are essentially the same. And if you recall, we have a 32 bar long main body of the song, in which we cut in half. We first looked at the first 16 bars, and then we looked at the next 16 bars. Let's do that again, and we'll revise the bass line. So the bass this time is going to start on B, and it's going to descend by a half step down to G, then it's going to go up to C, up a step to C sharp, down a fifth to F sharp, up a fourth to B. If we play the chords over that, we get a B minor 7th, an A sharp diminished flat 13, A minor 6 to E over G sharp, to G major 6 or G6, to C major 7th, C sharp half diminished, F sharp 7 flat 13, and then back to B minor 7. So that's your bass line. It's a really cool bass line actually. Those are the chords in the first 16 bars. Then if we take a look at the next 16 bars, we can actually cut that in half and work with 8 bars, twice 8 bars, because they're quite similar. The bass starts on A, down to G sharp, down to G, E, and then B. In terms of chords, what we have is D over A, then when the bass goes to G sharp, this is a G sharp diminished. Then we go to G major 7th, E minor 7th, and B minor 7th. And then we have that again, back to D7 over A. This time the bass still remains a G sharp, but we're going to bring everything down to C sharp over G sharp. And then we have this funky chord here, E minor 6 over G. And then F sharp 7, flat 13, back to B minor. So the first time we'll go like this. The second time we'll go. So you notice that when we did the playthrough, we had an 8-bar introduction, which we hadn't had before. Now in this introduction, what we have is 2 bars of D7 over A, 2 bars of C sharp 7 over G sharp, 2 bars of G6, 2 bars of B minor 7. Also, in the original recording, there's like an outro, which is a vamp. It's a vamp in B minor, which lasts for another 4 bars. Now, we didn't include that in the playthrough simply because the most common way of playing this piece is just a 32 bar long. But the introduction is very nice, and it's very, very commonly played as well. So we did include that in the backing track. Now, the next thing I'd like to do with you is to take a look at some of the ways that he's using the bossa rhythm. You may have noticed that the way I was playing there, I wasn't just simply sticking to the kind of basic bossa groove. I was varying, just like he does in the recording. And so, first of all, let's take a look at the most common way of playing this rhythm. So if we take, say, a B minor 7 chord, the most basic way, the way that most people learn, is to play like this. So here what we're doing is we're playing together, then the fingers, then just the thumb, and then just the fingers. So that's a 1 bar pattern. 1, 2, 1, 2. And if I were to subdivide that into 4 to make it easier to count, it would be 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. Now that's the most basic bossa pattern that there is. So one variation that you can do with that simple bossa rhythm is to anticipate the change. So I'm going to play an upbeat when I have the next chord. So like this. This is the same still. Now here comes. And again. So it's just a little variation you wouldn't do that every time, you just do that sometimes, kind of like a little fill on the drum. That's the second way you can do. Now there's one pattern, another pattern that people play that's quite common. It's a 2 bar pattern, and the first bit is exactly the same as I showed you in the first pattern. It's the same, and then the other bar is a variant. So it's and again, it's a bossa is a binary rhythm. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So that is one other way you can play. Now let's take a look at how Jobim does his rhythm playing in the recording. He's got a very light touch on the strings. He's not plucking it loud. And in that way, the rhythm works really well because it's just very light, a light brush. So this is how he plays the first 2 measures of the song when we have the B minor 7 going to the A diminished flat 13th. So you see, that's a pattern that is always changing. And so, but one pattern that is nice to extract out of that idea is this first pattern that goes like this. So this is the first 2 bars. So it would be, if I counted really slowly again and 4 to help you, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1, 2 and 3, 4. And 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now make sure that you've got a very light touch. There you go. So that's one other way you can have fun with your bossa rhythms. This concludes this series on how insensitive. I hope that was, if you've managed to watch all the videos, I hope that was helpful. Again, if you're looking for the tabs or for the backing tracks, those are posted on our Patreon page. and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye bye for now.